Hi, and welcome to Rosie STEM. This is Python Explained, the series where we unravel Python's secrets. Today, we're diving into the world of file paths and learning how they tell your computer to find files. Think of file paths as the GPS coordinates to your data. So let's open up our File Explorer and get started. So here I have my Finder window open. I have a Mac. So if you have a Mac also, this is going to look very similar. You can also do a very similar thing in Windows with your File Explorer. But this is normally how I find files on my computer. So let's say I have data that I want to use in Python. Maybe I want to read it into Pandas. It's in this data folder here. These folders in your File Explorer are known as directories. So each of these is its own directory full of files. Now, if I want Python to be able to find this Spotify tracks.csv file, I have to be able to tell it the entire path for where to find this file. And that path usually starts with something called the root directory. The root directory is the overall folder on your computer that stores all of your files. If you want to find your root directory on Mac, it's going to be represented by a /. On Windows, it's a /. And usually you can see it as the very top of your path. So if you look at the very bottom of my screen here, where it says Macintosh HD, this is my root directory. And then you can see all of the folders that I'm inside. So I went to users, then my name, Dropbox, Mac, documents, tutorials, data. Now that is the path for how to find this file. You can also find your root directory by going to Go, then go to folder, and if you type in a / and hit enter, it'll bring you to your root directory, and I can follow that exact same path to find that folder. So I can go through each of these individual directories and get to my documents, tutorials, data. And here's that Spotify track CSV. So what we're going to learn is how to tell your computer that path for getting to this file. So when specifying a file path, you have two options, absolute path and relative path. So far, what we've been talking about is an absolute path. It gives the full address from the root directory. Relative paths are based on wherever you are currently in your computer, wherever your current location is. So let's simplify this with an example. I'm going to open up a Jupyter notebook here. So here is my Jupyter notebook. In this Jupyter notebook, I'm going to be showing you some examples of how to use file paths to read data into Pandas. If you're not familiar with Jupyter notebooks, I'm going to put a link here to a video that I have on Jupyter notebooks and why you might want to use them. But really all you need to know is that it allows me to have some explanatory text along with some Python code so I can do a tutorial for you. So we mentioned that we have absolute and relative file paths, and that if we want to use relative file paths, we have to know where we currently are in our computer. So we can say where the data is relative to where we are. So the term that we use for where you currently are in your computer is the working directory. We can see our working directory in Python by using the following code. So we have to import the OS library, and then we can use os.getCWD. CWD stands for current working directory. So when we run this function, it'll give us our current working directory as a string. Usually your current working directory is going to be whatever directory your Python file is in. So in this case, my Python file is in a directory called notebooks that lies in a directory called Rosie's tutorials that's in my documents, and so on and so on. So this is the absolute path for my current working directory. It's absolute because it goes all the way from the root directory. In this case, the /. Now, if I import Pandas, I can show you how to read in a file that is in my current working directory. So if your Python script or Jupyter notebook is in the same folder as your data file in your current working directory, you can simply use the file name of the data that you want to read in as your argument to pandas.readcsv. So in this case, I have a file named titanic.csv that is in my current working directory. It's in this notebooks folder. So when I run this, it's going to read that data in and show me a subset of that data frame. Now, I can also read in a file with a relative path. So, for example, if your data file is in a different directory, it's not in your current working directory, you'll need to provide an address to find that. For example, you can use two dots to tell the computer that you want to move up a directory. So, in this case, I would move from the notebooks directory into the Rosie's tutorial directory. And then I can say, once I'm in the Rosie's tutorial directory, take me to the data folder. And then there's a file in there called Spotify tracks. This is a relative file path to the Spotify tracks file. So when I run this, it is able to find that Spotify tracks file, and it gives me a snapshot of that data frame. I can also read in this same file by using the absolute file path. Often when your data is in a different folder than your code, you'll just use an absolute file path. So this is the absolute file path to that exact same spot. You'll see a lot of it looks very familiar. I'm still working in this Rosie's tutorial directory, but now I've gone into data and then Spotify tracks. When I run this, I should get the exact same data frame as above. So if your data is in a subfolder within your current working directory, it's actually very easy to use a relative path to find that. You would just use a / and give your subfolder's name before the file name. Additionally, if you are in your current working directory, instead of just giving the file name, you can also use a dot and a /. This dot just represents the directory that you are already in. So when you run this, you'll get the exact same thing. So if you ever see that / it's just saying within the directory I'm in, find this file. So there you have it. You've mastered the art of file paths. Now it's time to try it out on your own with some of your own data files, and let me know your experiences in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video on Rosie's STEM. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a future lesson. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend who might be interested in learning more about Python. And remember that learning never stops, so drop a comment below on questions that you have or other topics that you would like to see covered in future videos. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.